People got so drunk. One of the things we didn't ship with that we just couldn't have time to get to. And this happened.
Oh, the difference between horror and terror.
I think this is a bug.
Today, I'm continuing my playthrough of the Dead Space remake with Chuck Beaver. Chuck was a producer and writer of all the original Dead Space trilogies, as well as the Dead Space Transmedia. This is an original dev playing the remake for the first time.
What? This is brand new. All right, let's see what you got, Motive. What'd you do? What'd you do? What'd you do?
You'll need your thrusters to reach it, but that lift shaft should take you straight down to engineering.
Oh, nice. So you're gonna bypass the tram and then 3D fly to engineering.
Whee! This is fun.
Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you doing it? Please, I'm gonna throw up.
This is great. What a beautiful way to explore the Ishimura. Now you're back out where you crashed.
Yeah.
In on the Kellyan.
Oh, hey, bud.
Little baby. Babies.
I missed. I'm gonna run.
Oh, God.
Give me this. Eat it.
Nicely done. Do you love the weak points?
Yeah. Shoot these.
Yeah. Wow, what a fun way to get to engineering. This is cool. Oh, this was the original room that we did for the prototype. This piece in here with the engine, it looked like the original when you see the engine later gets turned on. The original final animation of success there, we were like, it looks like it's fun. We're gonna have to redo this animation.
Yeah.
This engine doing its thing.
I have the Ripper now.
Oh, do you? The Ripper is one of my favorite weapons, I'm not gonna lie.
Autopsy report, Dr. Nicole Brennan.
That's pretty great. It's interesting, they've really got a lot of her in here now, which is just really nice.
Yeah. When you were working on a lot of writing for this, was it ever hard where you're just like, man, this is dark, I'm kind of bummed out, or was it just like, this is fun and gross?
No, it was mostly fun, because it's like, when you're writing the horror stuff, it's like you're trying to make it as creepy as possible, so you're like in that mindset of writing people who were scared hiding in the toilet and hearing things, and
Yeah.
they're they're not sure if their best friend is a monster who just chased them down kind of stuff, so it becomes really fun.
Yeah, because you guys would have get-togethers and parties and stuff too, eh?
Well, we would host, they would trade which discipline would host the weekly meeting, and it seems weird now, but it was always drinking. It was very booze heavy, and so each of the disciplines would try to outdo each other on how they would host the meeting, right, or host the party. And I was lighting group, and the animation group, and the producers, and that. So the production group went all out one time, and we did rig shots. So we had 3 shots in a row, red and yellow and green. Mm-hmm. Red was like a Fireball whiskey shot. The yellow was maybe tequila and something else, maybe some kind of tequila shot. The blue was curacao and something else. There was a lot of alcohol in we made everybody drink all 3. When you would do a rig shot, and you did all 3.
Yeah, so we go from green to yellow to red.
Yeah, and you do all 3 shots. And we were a relatively young crew, so people got so drunk. They were it was a problem. People were falling asleep in the bushes out in front of the AA building, that night, and their spouses were like, where are they? And there are people who fall asleep on their keyboards back at their desk, and they would wake up with keyboard face.
Yeah.
So we went a little too overboard in our quest for success.
I remember you were telling me a story where someone came up to you and they're like, yeah, I had 4 rig shots. And you're like, no, you're supposed to do 3, red, green, yellow, red. And they're like, oh, then 12. And you're like, oh, sit down. Wait.
Oh, miscommunication.
Yeah.
This is not the design we intended. Sorry. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Hey, just jumping in real quick to say if you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up and please leave us a comment with your thoughts on the remake. And if you'd like to see another episode of this, please subscribe so you can know when that comes out. And by the way, you might want to stick around to the end of this video because a little bit of a surprise we weren't expecting there.
Look at that, look how great that looks. Oh, it's a more melee weapon. It's close by. You're on fire. You're super on fire. Oh no! You are burning to death.
We haven't gotten any of the iconic death animations yet, really.
Yeah, those have got to be in, right? Yeah. They got to be somewhere. I'm sure they're in Dead Space 1. I remember the ones in Dead Space 2 because there's one where a vomiter grabs your head and opens your mouth up and vomits.
Yeah.
And your face melts off.
And you're like, wow. That's cool.
Gruesome. This is such a handsome game. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I didn't even notice that there's a blade that just cut his head off in the wall.
I just saw it too. Look at the blood on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's what the environmental storytelling I was telling you that we were really always trying to do, because it just really enriches the world. If you don't notice it, it's just more of the same of the world. But when you do, you're like, that's so cool. That's a really nice treatment. I like that it's very simple and it's just there. Oh, wow. Wow.
Take this.
That's a real improvement over what we did. See how the blade takes on a fiery edge so you can see the impact of it? That's really smart. I hope you're enjoying your increased CPU. You can do all the cool things.
We would have done that if we could.
Yeah. No, seriously though.
But we really.
We would have.
Yeah, how much of what you guys were trying to do was limited by the technology of your time?
Some, not a whole bunch. Like we obviously got a bunch of stuff in. We were constantly working around the no cutting camera, and stream sets is always a problem. You have to get stuff in. As we used to say, you're not done till the frame rate drops. So we'd be shoving in VFX and animations till it was, no more would fit. And maybe some of the enemies, to be fair, like I think the complexity of the enemies was really maxing out what was possible.
Because what was your timeline like as well? Because you guys were working on Dead Space 1 for a couple of years.
3 years, I think, was that one. So the first year and a half was a lot of prototyping and getting things figured out, world building, going through all the concept art for everything. And EA was just kind of greenlighting us every 3 months. You'd show up with some software and they'd be like, okay, keep going. And it's, I don't think they thought we were going to make it. It was going to happen. Keep it. Nice. There's the answer. Oh, what?
There we
Did you
go.
get it? Oh, that was the answer.
Nice. Take that. They made this feel so powerful, like screen shaking. I don't know.
I can't.
Outbound done, Chief. Progress report filed by Jacob Temple. The engine problems aren't a malfunction. Now we need to restart the south refueling station, but some jackass turned off the power and locked up. No engines. We're gonna hit planetfall soon.
They're doing a really good job of good world building, because it's not every audio log is just like, bad things are happening. It's like this is what's happening to this ship. If this happens, then we hit planetfall, and it's like, it's a proper noun, but I understand what it means. It's like,
Yeah, I like that. And also, I like since I know the story, there's foreshadowing too. Like, well, someone's sabotaging the ship. It's not just that it's broken; like it's actively been screwed up, which you'll figure out who later.
So I get to turn off the lights or life support.
Oh, another one of the light choices. That's pretty solid. That's great. Like, you're obviously not gonna turn off life support.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could, but then it makes the area timed for your oxygen.
Which I'm not gonna do.
I love that though. It's pretty great as far as choices go. There it is.
Hello?
The one thing we were really sensitive to in the first game was like being too castigating of religion. Even back in 2005, 6, 7, 8 when we were making it.
Yeah.
Like we were like, well, yeah. And despite the Scientology sort of vibe of Unitology, that was as close as we dared get. But there will be a couple of perspectives here on this. Like one of the believers in Unitology loses his religion and the other doubles down on it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that was I would exactly do that again.
Oh, good.
Oh, an infector.
Hello, sir.
What's he doing? Is he going to come after us through the vent? Oh, sure enough.
Oh, is he gonna go?
Yeah, I think. Oh God, he's going to come get us the back way. He's like, doesn't matter that you're out there. I'm going to come.
Did you guys have that in the original, where they would be able to
yeah.
Oh wow.
I never played the original.
Oh,
weirdly.
hey.
See, there's maybe somebody else. I love the Ripper. That's so good.
It forces you to get close, so it's good for defense, but also you're in their face. You're like,
You're right in that that vulnerable.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to be here.
Space.
Please stop.
Oh God, got it. It's got a squeegee kind of sound to it.
That had to be fun doing all the sound design. I bet there were so many watermelons that were squished.
I wonder what they did. Yeah, you can always use celery for cracking bones is a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the original sound design was very engineered in a pretty innovative way. Like the enemies would path to you, and they used the vents were pathing nodes. They would despawn but could respawn at events. but you would hear them as they were pathing to a node near you, a vent near you, and so you'd hear them.
Yeah.
And if you played in 5.1 headphones, you could hear the sound traveling closer to you. It's interesting on the shop just now you were in, I noticed that one of the things we didn't ship with that we just couldn't have time to get to, when those panels fold out, we wanted them to all have holograms parented to them so the holograms would fold out as well, but we just didn't get to it.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if we should have maybe called Motive, hey, we want it.
Hey, you should add these.
Can you go to our backlog that's 23 years old now? Yeah. Pick up a couple items. There's nothing to complain about. Motive has done just a great job. Look at his suit. I'm just going to gush on that suit till I'm dead.
It looks awesome.
It's so not superhero, but it's so perfectly Isaac. Look at the loving detail of that helmet. And it's got like the little like illuminating bands horizontally in the first two hooks there. And now he's got some ribs on the side. I bet this thing gets closer to the classic suit as we go.
Well, it's also like, now it's such an iconic suit. Like, when you see that helmet, like this iconic 3 lines, like everyone knows Isaac Clarke.
You know, dude, that's so satisfying because that was literally what we were trying to do was find an iconic look for a game, and even at that point, geez, what, 18 years ago, it was saturated. You're like, okay, well, what are we gonna do that's unique? And the fact that we managed to find it is just like, I still really don't even believe it. Like, I can't believe we found something so iconic, and that's a testament to how talented the art people were. Like, you know.
Well,
great.
Well, it's great that this was remade too, because even though like at the time I'm sure the audience was relatively small, it's now become such a cult classic where every year during Halloween, you know, on like Twitch and stuff, it's just like everybody's playing Dead Space.
That's so crazy. You know, I'm not fluent enough in Twitch streamers to really follow that stuff. Oh, here we go. Woo! Is this going to be the centrifuge? Oh, it is! I love this sequence so much. This was some of the best design that the team had done. You know what? I'm gonna be. God, wait. Let me think about this. I have to remember. I think I had pitched some awful version of this because I thought I was gonna do level design, right?
Yeah.
Not a level designer at all. But I had some crazy big centrifuge where you had to walk under it, and it was like the size of like a house was swooping over your head, and you had to like dodge around it. And I think Brett, the creative director at the time, probably did a little eye roll and said, and he took the design and modified it to something actually useful. So it was like this, you know, he's a good level designer, so this turned into a good thing.
Oh,
yeah, so it's this big room, there's a lot to do, and it's a multi-stage room. I don't know, it just is really, really, it's just really in the world. It's very atmospheric. I guess that wants to stop spinning.
Yeah. I love it. It's such a good way to make you use all of your tools.
Yes. Like I said, those were hard to come by. So I just like it. You're floating in this clean space. There's just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Like we had nowhere near the capacity to render that many items in the world. Like there's just no way. This is like a good version of Lucas going back into the cantina and adding aliens. I mean, this actually works.
Yeah.
You see the giant piece of UI on the wall that's on the side?
Yeah.
That was not there in the original design. We did not start it out with this giant thing that says, Brian, do this.
Do it, please.
Like, eventually you test a puzzle and you design it so you know what's going on. You put people in a room and they just walk around lost for the entire focus test. And
Yeah.
You're like, really?
When you're looking at it for so long, it's kind of become blind to it.
You become blind with all the things that are misdirecting.
Yeah.
Like, you walk in here, there's a lot of lights, there's 720 degrees space, fighting enemies so you lose orientation.
Yeah.
And now you're like, okay, well, what am I doing? And it's hard to know what the goal state is of this setup because it's not clear. Like, well, nothing is inferred by this shape. But in the end, it's fun. You put the pieces together and you just kind of hand wave your way through the puzzle. And work.
If we weren't recording, I would literally just be flying around for like 5 minutes. Just like that's such a fine balance between like, hey, you want your hero to be cool and powerful, but also it's a horror game, so he's got to have some weaknesses and he's got to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so the suit does such a good job of being like, yes, this is a suit that will protect him, and also he's cool, he can fly.
It doesn't seem like armor though.
Yeah,
armor.
exactly.
It just
But he's
feels
not
like,
going to just destroy everything.
yeah, it's just like, oh, look at that. Look at that. Man, bring this engine to bear on the problem. Woo! This is my favorite thing, when the whole thing opened up and the centrifuge was running.
Re-establishing balance with tectonic load.
I think the only thing from my original design that made it was you have to kind of run now.
That's
how
love-
gorgeous this is. Now run fast.
Yeah.
And getting
I
that
love how it
heavy-
shakes the camera too, and you just
Yeah.
hear like it feels so
And it's the
powerful.
muted thing, and it's on a timer because of the oxygen.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Oh,
this is
good.
bad.
Oh, God. Come back here. You can if you stasis him, he'll get smashed.
Yeah. Oh god.
Oh God! Woo! That's such a good thing. See, that's so great though. This puzzle turns into that after you turn it on.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid. No, I had some god awful design. Like when you're first designing stuff, everything's too complicated.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
This happens and then this happens and then this happens.
Such a great sequence, right? It
Yeah.
was so a multi-stage room. Those are hard to imagine. Okay, you just finished the centrifuge, and this happened.
Oh, this iconic. Oh, there's skulls in there. I never
Oh, I
noticed.
did. I think they may have
There's
added
like little
it.
heads in there.
I love this sequence. Oh, you're out of plasma beast. Shoot the yellow. Shoot the
goo.
yellow thing. Shoot the yellow thing. Oh God, they got the yellow thing to shoot. Oh my God, I hope you have weapons. Magic pants, magic pants. Oh God, it's gonna get you. Oh my God. Look at that. Look how well modeled that thing is. Look at that. Look at that piece
There's
of
like little heads
blade.
in there.
Ooh, that's great. You caught the skulls the first time I didn't because I wasn't looking
That's
for
so
them.
gross.
So good. Look at that. It's got like, what is it when you break your leg and the bone pokes out of the skin?
yeah,
There's
like
a
an
name for that
open
type
fracture.
of. There's some
Yeah.
specific name for that. That's a series of those. It looks like a tenderloin.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to cook it up. and
Yeah.
make a little meal. Cook it up on the grill. Have a little taste.
Man, so that was the difficult sequence. Like this was a difficult time during EA's or the Dead Space development. We weren't sure we were gonna go. We kind of had to like squeeze the team down. I had to go to The Simpsons for a little bit. as a matter of
really?
fact. Yeah. During the development of this, I was gone for like 6 months, so we could pass the budget squeeze hole. And like they did this sequence during that, and they said this was so hard to do. But apparently, like getting that thing to grab you at the right time, and then getting it to slap you down, and then making it pull, like it was. And what's the camera doing?
Yeah.
And then it was a whole new suite of animations for Isaac, obviously, because he's not standing up.
Yeah.
Right. So they had to refigure out. This was extremely expensive to do.
If you think of something like on a movie where it's like, okay, well, he's got to lie down, he's got to get grabbed by a thing, which is not easy. But you're right, where people may not even think of like, this needs an entire new animation suite. Just the fact that one thing grabs him in another way is just like, it's crazy to do.
Right.
It's really hard.
Think about the paired animation for that. You have to just forever polish and get right.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you walk into it from the controlled camera and a controlled character. Like when do you not make it clear to the player that something's being grabbed? So you walk through a door, which always helps.
Yeah.
And you kind of do that, and so you sort of deterministically know where his character model is, and then you have to root him and grab him with the thing.
Yeah.
And grab the camera and then blend it into that segment. So that was a really tricky one to do. Like I said, I love that it followed the centrifuge section because that was so big.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, there's for sure nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, now I'm going to go down
Yeah.
and have a down moment, or I'm going to get grabbed by a big tentacle. What?
And it plays into kind of like you were saying, where it's just like this feeling of like you are never safe. Like this,
Yes.
like anything could happen at any time, which just plays into that feeling. Like we're talking about the difference between horror and terror, where it's like horror is again like the jump scares, where it's like there's a thing here, like look out, versus the like here where we're just sitting here and they're like I heard something.
Yeah.
What's happening here? Like something could come out at any time.
Yeah, I am. Even with the way you described it just now, whenever that happens, you were then therefore in the genre of horror and terror because of those cues.
Yeah.
Right. And I think spending something like a pattern break on that big thing, you just said it, like you're never safe. Like those are the thematical tentpoles that ran this franchise. That's why this was so focused. And so in doing that, you start to realize these are the things you're trying to achieve. And so what you just described is what we were trying to create in your brain. Like, oh my God, I'm never safe. Like, even after a giant crescendo of action, I still might get grabbed by a giant tentacle.
Right.
And of course, it never happens again in the game. But you were like, you don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. So that, especially if it's so expensive, like you're saying, it's just like, all right, well that was enough.
Yeah. You spend those things wisely. So you don't want to. That's why I'm so gushing about still that design, because that is the wisest spend of that much money.
Right.
Is it breaks the pattern in a way that sets you up as the player to be like, oh my gosh, right? And
Yeah.
if you had sort of just metered those out and they were all the same, they wouldn't have the amount of dynamic impact.
Right. It helps with the pacing. Where it's just like that's why there's all these different gameplay moments. Like here, where it's like, oh, now it's a flying section.
Yep.
You don't want to just have the whole game be Isaac walking
Hey,
around.
Hammond.
Right,
I cracked
right.
the secure files. CC was here for more than just a mining claim, huh?
What do you mean?
This outbreak started on the colony after the miners dug up some artifacts. Something alien.
Oh no.
That's impossible.
But it would explain why Aegis 7 is meant to be off limits, right? Earth God's orders. When the miners found the artifact, they reported hallucinations, paranoia, suicides. But the Ishimura brought this marker on board anyway. Like that was the plan.
Marker.
Okay, back up. Where's this marker now?
In cargo.
What do you think, now that I'm reading through this, it's like a murder mystery, there's a dead body, you walk into the Ishimura, it's a haunted house, there's already a necromorph infection. What's left to figure out besides survive? That's a dramatic question.
There's multiple things where it's just like, you want to escape, which is powerful, but when a game is, what, like 8 to 10 hours like this, it's like, okay, that can get really...
escape.
That can get really dry, but it's also like, you're trying to escape, you're trying to find someone you care about, you're trying to save the people that you know are here, and then also you're trying to figure out what happened. And then, of course, then eventually you can become more heroic, like, oh, I should try and stop this infection. So you have all of these different things, which are all kind of the same goal, but there's all these different reasons, which make it much more powerful, rather than just like, I want to leave.
Oh, look at this. He looks bad. He looks bad off.
Yeah, he looks like he's having a rough day.
Wow, look at corruption. Man, they did an outstanding job upgrading this. Look, because we didn't have this level of like translucence or, or some type of scattering that's going on with the lens. But I love this stuff. This is a really, really beautiful version of corruption. Oh, squeeze through it. Oh, you gotta touch it. Touch it, Brian.
Yeah, you gotta touch the gross thing.
Look at the depth of field on this.
Yeah.
It just looks really gooey and like intestinal in a really good way. Ours was much more crusty and like dried blood looking. This is, that's so good. What a great sequence. No, so what I was saying, though, I think if the world is well constructed in a simple way that's in the backstory, and in the aftermath of it shows clues in the story, and you start to put together stuff and it starts to fit, you feel clever and the world feels worth exploring, and I think that's it's nice that way, and I think it adds the depth of the world. You don't just feel like you're walking through, just a bunch of horror hallways. You're like, oh, there's a thing that's happened, there's momentum here, I get what happened. Oh, I forgot about the flood based on Halo.
Oh, really, you guys? Yeah. You guys pulled that from Halo, hey?
We were inspired by it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's in the end, it was a pretty close copy. Because that was because when we figured out what the budget was going to be, that we couldn't have bunches of enemies.
Yeah.
You always want a swarm of zombies of some kind, so the little ones were going to be our swarm.
So you're just like, okay, we can't have a swarm of big zombies, but how about a swarm of little guys?
This is the minimum bone and animation count we can have for X number. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's what we got. There was an enemy that Ben had come up with that we never got a chance to implement, but it was going to be in the ceiling. It was called the Grabber, and Ben was like, he had done like full like actual character models in 3D and animation and little movies of him to show what he was thinking. And it would be this like scraggly hairy head, up in the ceiling, and you'd walk by, and it would just basically, its neck would extend down, and it would just grab you, and then pull you up towards it to eat you. I remember this room quite a bit. Right?
Try this.
Ooh,
That
flamethrower.
doesn't seem to do anything.
Trying. What's the ultimate flamethrower? That's funny. What a stasis bomb? Wow, look at that. Oh, VFX for the win.
Oh, it's like a big AoE if you...
Oh, that's the ult of the flamethrower?
Yeah,
That's pretty
that's
solid.
really good against these guys. Just kills all the little dudes.
Man, it's so gratifying to see upgraded VFX for all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a big sci-fi nerd, so I like the sci. I like
visual.
I like that too. I like the stasis one. We had a upgrade when we did Dead Space 2 to the stasis. It was too fabulous. Like I think they had done a thing, and I'm like, that looks amazing. But it kind of took over the whole screen. It was like a little much.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Like, do more of that. I want to be able to not see.
Yeah.
I can't see
yeah.
anything.
Ooh, shiny. I was like, this is amazing. You know what's fun though? Like, as much fun as popular as the Dark Souls games are, like they're so punishing. I am really enjoying that you're like getting through this, although you're having to like really, engage it, but
Right.
it's not overwhelming you. You're not frustrated. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Wow, look at this room. How great is this?
Because the thing is like the pacing's going to be important not only for the general reasons of like you want to move the game and the story forward, but also if you're in the same space for too long, it becomes less scary because you know what it is.
Right? And then you get frustrated trying to get through it if you're not skilled enough, which like, that's no fun.
But the fact that you're always like, oh, I have to go into that next room, I don't know what's in there, or I have to go do this thing, I don't know what that's going to be. Like, that's what makes it scary. Because if we came back to this room 5 times, it's like, oh, I know this room, whatever.
Isaac, you did it. The Ishimura's moving again.
No thanks to whoever sabotaged the fuck out of these engines.
You bought us time to figure it out. Autopilot's taking us into geostationary orbit.
Wait, you're flying us through the planet crack debris?
That's what the asteroid defense system is for.
But the ADS is offline. I've got the system readouts here.
Isaac, you disable the tram lockdown from engineering. I'll open up the bridge station. Meet me there.
Oh god, oh god, oh god. What is that? No, multiple things happening all at once. Switch the fire! 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 Fire!
They're on me, I'm dead.
Oh no! You actually died!
I think it's fucked. Well, this is it. This is the game now. You just watch Isaac die.
Oh no, what? I think this is a bug.
Wow, now we can just hang out here forever.
It's quite the bug.